Hey girls, today's video is gonna be a very long video. So if you guys want to watch till the end, thank you for watching. So to start off with my client, this is my first client of the day. We are prepping her nails and we're gonna be doing acrylic nails today on her. She's getting a square acrylic set and she's just doing pink French tip with a pinky nude base and a few little gold charms. Once we've prepped her nails, we're going to be adding our tips, and I think it's these tips in particular that take a while to dry with the glue. I don't always have that problem, but on this set I did, so I hold them a bit longer than usual, and I kind of just go back and forth through the nails just to make sure they are sticking and they do dry all the way before I head on to the next hand. Once we've added all our tips, we're gonna go ahead and size. And before I cut them down, of course, I asked my client what length she wants. She wanted to go a little tiny bit shorter than what we were doing. So once we decide the length, I go ahead and clip every tip, and as I'm doing it, I match them. I have my technique of matching. Everybody matches differently. I know people, you can use the magnets. I've tried that, but that's not something that I like. And I've also tried, it's like a sticker, like the nail form. It's just not something that's for me. I find it more accurate this way. And they always come out really good. All my clients, they never seem to have an issue with the length or sizes on each hand. So as long as it works for you, you keep doing what you're doing. And then we're gonna go ahead on the next hand. What I do is I clip just kind of how long I might think they are. I try not to cut them shorter, obviously. I keep a little length longer just in case. And then I go ahead and match them, and I'm able to cut down if I need to. If for any reason you cut down too short, you can always grab the tip that you cut off, glue it back on, file it a little bit to blend in the tips, and then you could go ahead and clip it to match the nail. And then once we're done with giving our client their length, we're gonna go ahead and file. I'm using an 80/80 grit. That's just what works best for me. I don't really have to put too much pressure on the file or anything like that. And because the nail kind of has a little shape, I kind of just narrow it down a bit more because we are doing our tapered square. And then of course we get the ends nice and straight. And don't forget to blend your tip to your natural nail. You always want to do that before applying your acrylic. Once we're done filing, you want to make sure you take off all the excess dust, any particles, and then to help remove any extra oils, we're going to be using our dehydrator. And with the dehydrator, we're just going to do one sweep on all 10 fingers. Next, we're adding our primer. And when I prime, I do it twice. I do all 10 fingers. And by the time I get back to the first hand, it's pretty much dried and ready for the second coat. This does help with my lifting. You don't necessarily have to do 2 primer coats, but I do. I don't have any issues with lifting at all. And for our base acrylic, we're using our Valentino Bad and Bougie. This one gives you a pinker nude. It's not pink, but it does, it's not like a cappuccino nudie. It's more of a rosy nudie. And so I thought this base would look very nice with the pink. And she also wanted more of a rosy nude. So I decided to go with our Bad and Bougie. And we are going to be doing our two bead method. Of course, when we put our cuticle bead, you don't want it as wet. You want it a little dry, just enough to where you can mess with it and move it around and get it into your cuticle area. Then we're going to blend that into our second bead. If for whatever reason you feel like you would need a little bit more acrylic in any area, you can always get a wet bead. You want to get a small wet bead to cover or fill in any acrylic places you might need, or any places you might need extra acrylic. So for instance, on this pinky nail, of course my first nail, but it's like a little warm-up nail. This one, I felt like my cuticle area wasn't as flushed and I could have used a little bit more acrylic. So I got a very wet bead, let that kind of sink in there, and then I cleaned it up nicely. And then we're on to our next nail. I would say that the most important thing when doing nails is getting your acrylic application right. That's gonna help you a lot with time. It's gonna help you a lot with not having to file as much or e-file, and it's just gonna give a nice structure to the nail. It's not gonna be too thick or too lumpy, and you get a better shape as well. After the acrylic application, hopefully you guys are still with me. We are going to file our corners, our sides and all that, and then we're going to go into our e-file, because I already kind of showed you guys how I file my tips. It's kind of the same way that I file my acrylic, but now I'm going to go in with our e-file, and we're going to take our time on this part as well. We don't want to rush it too much. We want to make sure that we don't put too much pressure on our apex. We want to have a nice little apex, not make it too flat. We want to get the sides, and we want to make sure the acrylic has a nice even top. And you also want to look at your nail from the side and from the front views, just to make sure that you have an even acrylic layout throughout the entire nail. once we're happy with how our e-files come out, I do go in with a hand file just to get the little edges, the little acrylic hangy parts that come after you e-file. And then after filing, you just go in with a buffer just to give the nails a little buff. And then this is right before we do our nail art. Once we have our nails dust free and clean, we're gonna start off with our Frenchies. And because we are doing a deep French, I'm gonna be doing the A way. I guess when you do a French, you make an upside down A, and it kind of gives you like a map to start out with to get a better French tip. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. It's there if you need it. And this pink is from D&D. It's called Soft Pink. And their consistency, the texture of the gel, this one is very nice and thick. I do 2 coats only because I just feel like it gives it a nice thick color. Like it's not sheer or anything like that. And then also because sometimes you'll see like little see-through areas, and you want to make sure you have an even color throughout your French tip, or even when you're painting the entire nail. I find it easier also to do French tips with a long bristle brush. Just depends. You can do a medium. I wouldn't recommend a small at all. A medium is okay as well, but the long does help you when you're doing fine lines or straight lines, long lines. So I would recommend getting yourself a good brush that you feel like works best for you. You don't have to break the bank for a nail art brush. Just find one that really works for you, that has good bristles, and that is easy to kind of move around, because some are a little too stiff. If when you get gel stuck in your brush, it's kind of like, it feels like a greasy feel, you want to just dip it in acetone. I clean all my brushes, my nail art brushes, with acetone. You could do it with alcohol. I just find it better with acetone. I feel like it cleans out my brushes really good. And because these brushes aren't so expensive, after the wear and tear, using your brushes for so long, you can just go ahead and get a new set. I've had this nail brush, I just got it a few months ago, and it's my go-to, honestly, just because the bristles are really good, and of course it's a long bristled brush. So as I'm doing my French tips, I'm also measuring. Sometimes I feel like I get it right, and then I'll try to fix it, and then it doesn't come out. So then I do it again. So I'm just a perfectionist on my Frenchies. I like them to come out really nice and crisp and even. I don't like to have them too low or too short in all different types of lengths. I try to go based on the nails next to them. So it's okay to mess up and redo your French tip. I felt like before, in the very beginning, when I would do a French tip, I would be very scared to just wipe off the entire nail and start over. And so I would just kind of try to work with what I had already on the nail and try to fix it. And I feel like because I felt like, oh my gosh, it's gonna take forever, I would just leave it and have my clients cure it. But to avoid that, just wipe it off with your finger or get a little brush with a little bit of acetone or alcohol and just wipe it off. It's, you know, it's nothing to be scared of, just to start over. It actually takes less time to wipe it off and restart than to be going back and forth to each nail and just trying to fix them, and then either you keep bringing the French tip up, or the ends you keep making them longer and longer or thicker, and it just doesn't look right. So sometimes it's just best just to wipe it off and start all over. So now we're getting ready for our second coat of our French tips. And this should take not as long as how it took to actually draw the French tips, to paint them on there. This part should only take maybe, I don't know what, like 5 minutes on all 10 fingers. You want to trace the French line first and then fill it in, and then just be very careful. You don't want to like start to bring up your French tip because you feel like you have to. Just go ahead and follow the line what you already have. And like I said, if you end up adding more and it makes your French tip go up more, just go ahead and wipe it off and start all over. You're not adding to your French tip, you're just making the color more solid and even. After you're done with your French tip, you can always ask your client if they want to add any charms or diamonds or any designs. And in this case, my client, she wanted some charms, some bow charms. They're like little plastic bows, so we're going to go ahead and add our glue. And we're going to go ahead and place them right where she wanted them, right at the end of the French tip. And I do spray the glue spray to make it dry faster, to hold it in place. And then from there, after we added the bow charm, she did want some little diamonds, but I had offered her these little gold star charms, and she really liked those instead. So we went ahead and put these on. They're really cute and small. We're just adding 2 to each nail, not to make it too crowded. We could have added, if when you're doing a client you want to add more to it, you can add a little diamond. But I wouldn't say you want to add more than 2 on each nail. Also, you don't really just want to add 1. It's going to look pretty random. But the gold on here did give it a nice look, and then it had a really girly feel. Once all the charms are dried, we have the glue extra dry. We're gonna add our glossy top coat. And because the charms are a little 3D, we want to make sure that not too much gel packs around them. You want to kind of give it a good cover to where it's gonna help them stay, but not to where the gel kind of clumps up on top. And for the bow charms, you always want to secure those, so I always wait for those till the last, because when I do add a little bit more gel, it can start to slide off the sides. So I always leave that for the end. So I'm able to add a bit more, and then I'm able to get some in those little sides and those crevices, and the gel will stay there. So that way when I'm moving the hand around, it's not falling off to the side of the nail. And these are how my sets come out. Super freaking cute. Thank you guys for watching.